All right, back with breaking news this hour. Trump with a not-so-veiled threat against Attorney General Jeff Sessions, saying his job is safe, at least until the midterms. And then in the very same interview, Trump bluntly calling the Mueller probe a, quote, illegal investigation. Joining me now is former federal prosecutor Cathy Fleming and Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Great to have both of you with us. Now, let me begin with you because I want to talk a little bit about the politics of firing Jeff Sessions, if in fact that's what the president does, possibly after the midterms. This could go either way very badly for him, because if the Democrats take control of Congress, let's say the Senate, even the House, it's going to be a much more uphill battle for him to get his attorney general in that position. Why would he wait till the midterms to do it?
Well, I think there's no question that if Democrats take over the Senate, this isn't happening. Yeah. I think this is something that allies of his are saying to try to get him simply to put this off. Also, if he tries to make an appointment to replace Sessions before November, nothing's really going to happen. There's a whole process there. Yeah. But it's interesting to me, Ayman, we're seeing these Republicans like Lindsey Graham, for example, who once portrayed themselves as a curb on Donald Trump, really going completely the opposite direction. Yeah. You can't be a curb on one hand while you're waving a white flag in the other, which is what they're essentially doing.
Yeah, I think last year Lindsey Graham saying that there would be hell to pay if the president fired the attorney general, and just this week saying that, you know, this relationship is not working and there'll probably be some kind of change. Cathy, from a legal standpoint, and this is a point that we were talking about earlier, is there any legal repercussions from the Mueller probe that firing your attorney general or replacing the attorney general in of itself can be perceived as an obstruction of justice?
Well, it would depend on the reasons that he's replacing him. Yeah. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with a president replacing his attorney general. He serves at the pleasure of the president. The president has the removal power according to the Constitution, and he can. But
in the context of this,
if he's doing it because he is not following his bidding, or he's doing it because he wants to do it with a corrupt purpose, which are the words of the statute, or if he's doing it for an improper purpose with bad intent, then it could be used as evidence against him in an obstruction probe. But I think that he's been out in the open about how he feels about Jeff Sessions. It's certainly out there. And one of the things you have to say is he certainly seems to have lost faith in his attorney general.
To say the least, and confidence as well. It's funny, you're saying like how he's been open about his criticism of Jeff Sessions. In fact, he's been complaining to senators, saying that Sessions doesn't have the, quote, Ivy League pedigree that the president prefers, that he can't stand his southern accent, and that Sessions can't defend the president on TV because he talks like he has marbles in his mouth. Does this sound like Sessions will last very long in the Trump administration?
I'm surprised that he has stayed there and not resigned, although being Attorney General is certainly a great job, and if you, in fact, are independent and doing your job well, it's a great department to be the head of. But no, it does not sound like somebody who's criticizing, and boy, what a way to criticize. You sound like you have marbles in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's really not attacking someone's legal acumen, is it?
No, not at all, in fact. But let me ask you this, Niall, about again, the politics of this. Republicans do not want this headache, certainly between now and November. That's perhaps why he said that this is not going to happen before the midterms. But realistically speaking, regardless of the politics of it, the perception that the president would want to fire his attorney general just because he doesn't get along, Republicans seem to be kind of okay with that they want an attorney general, or that they would accept the president appointing an attorney general whose job is to be loyal to the president in the White House, not upholding the law and running the Department of Justice.
Yeah, and this is really an extraordinary thing to see and hear from some conservatives. What are they conserving when President Trump is talking about going against the norms in such an obvious way, to suggest that an Attorney General or the Department of Justice should serve his particular political whims? That is not a small c conservative principle at all. They do seem okay with it. It's not just Lindsey Graham. We also have Chuck Grassley seeming to align with the president. So really, you know, there isn't much sign, again, of the Republican Party really acting to put the brakes on this in any meaningful way.
Is there any way Bob Mueller can get to the core of the nature of the conversations between Jeff Sessions and the president? Would he have the power to do that?
It would depend on whether it was in a privileged context or not. And that's a question of fact, whether something's privileged. And it would be a question of whether the president waived the privilege or not. It would depend if other people were present, what happened. It would depend on whether somebody felt that how Jeff Sessions felt. there's certainly enough of it's been public that it's out there for interpretation of someone to see it.
We talk a lot about the politics of, is there anything the Republicans can do to shore up Jeff Sessions' job? And we always say this expression that the Attorney General and other cabinet members serve at the pleasure of the president. Is there anything Jeff Sessions can do to save his job?
Not really at this point. I mean, I think it is a bit of a challenge for those of us in journalism. We have to take these excuses seriously, like maybe the president doesn't like his accent, maybe he doesn't like the university he went to. Yeah. Look, the reason there's a problem here is that the president doesn't think Jeff Sessions is bowing to his will over recusal and over the Mueller investigation. That's the problem here, and I don't think that there's anything Jeff Sessions can do other than bend the knee to the president, which he's shown, to be fair, no sign of doing.
Yeah, and if my memory serves me correctly, the president has been on the record saying that what kind of man recuses himself, what kind of man does this, had he known that he was going to recuse himself, he perhaps would not have appointed him in that position. So it'd be interesting to see if that qualifies to what you were saying earlier.
Well, he has said that, and Jeff Sessions, in fact, did do it, and in fact, he stayed in there. He wasn't fired. So if you're the president's lawyers, you're going to argue, well, he didn't fire him when he didn't do it. That's evidence that he didn't want to obstruct justice.
Yeah, fair
But
point.
he certainly talked an awful lot about he wanted to.
All right, Cathy Fleming, we're going to have to leave it at that. Cathy, Niall, great to have you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next.